Vice President Kamala Harris tonight expected to give her closing argument in Washington, D.C., in the same spot where Trump spoke just before the siege at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021.
CBS News Miami's Jim DeFede joins us with more on the final days of the campaign. We are just 1 week out. How does each side feel about how things are going at this point?
So I can honestly say I've never seen an election this close in any of the years I've covered these. And the weird thing is I can tell you the stories for 2 days after the election. If Donald Trump wins, people will say it was because naturally the economy felt it was better for them under Donald Trump. Immigration was an issue that really scared and drove home for them. And Donald Trump was able to exploit a massive advantage in gender voting for his side. If Kamala Harris were to win, I can tell you the storyline there. It'll be because women turned out in record numbers because of abortion. The gender gap was really present there as well, and that Donald Trump's rhetoric towards the final days of the election went against him and cost him the election. I don't know which story we're going to be saying 2 days after the election. Yeah. That's how close it is. But I can come up with explanations and rationales for why each candidate will win.
It's hard to think, Jim, right now that there are many undecided voters, but maybe there are some unmoved or unmotivated voters. So how does each candidate get to those people?
Look, this is exactly what you saw with Donald Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden. Donald Trump knows he's got a ceiling. And Democrats that I've spoken to say that they have calculated it. They believe Donald Trump's ceiling is right there at 47.6%. If he gets that, that's his ceiling. He's never going to get 50%. He's never going to get 51% nationally. He's going to be right there. And so the key for him is to just gin up as many of those supporters as he can. Now, the Kamala Harris strategy is a little different. They have to motivate their voters to turn out, but she is still trying to persuade those Republicans, those moderates, those independents who are turned off by Donald Trump's rhetoric to come and vote for them. At this point, I don't know who those undecided voters are, but to your point, which is a good one about the motivated voter, both sides are trying to motivate them. And I'll give you a little hint in terms of what's happening here locally in Miami-Dade County. Again, we're not a swing state. I'm not suggesting anything. But in Miami-Dade County, Republicans are outperforming Democrats by a significant margin. The excitement right now in Miami-Dade County is on the Republican side, not the Democratic side. If that story is the story throughout the country, it's a very good place for Donald Trump to be and a very bad one for Kamala Harris.
And Jim, talk about the youth vote, because we know both sides were campaigning on college campuses. When we talk about unmotivated voters, seems like they're really gunning for the younger voters.
Donald Trump in particular. Donald Trump has, when you hear that Donald Trump has been on Joe Rogan or those podcasts, that's not a new thing. Donald Trump has been appearing on those podcasts for more than a year, and those are podcasts that are specifically designed for younger male voters, younger white male voters. That's who that really feeds into. And this has been a very deliberate strategy to go after those voters. Kamala Harris is trying to do it as well. And, in a state like Florida, for instance, the youth vote is going to be critical to sort of see on issues like the 2 constitutional amendments. It may not make a difference in the presidential race, right, but what happens with regard to Amendment 3 on marijuana and abortion? I had one Democratic operative tell me we put abortion and marijuana on the budget. If that can't, on the ballot, if that doesn't get young people to turn out to vote, we don't know what will.
We'll see how it turns out. Quickly, you think this will be closer even than Gore Bush in the year 2000?
Not in Florida, but nationally,
right,
yeah. I don't know that we're going to know the answer on election night.
It'll take a few days or maybe longer. We'll see.
Maybe longer. Jim, thank you so much for your insight this evening.
And be sure to stay with CBS News Miami for continuing coverage as we get closer to Election Day. We will have the latest on the race for the White House and the local races leading up to next Tuesday on air and online.